The great doors of the council chamber opened slowly. Admiral Una Park walked through them with her head held high. Behind her came 12 officers in crisp white uniforms. Their boots made sharp sounds on the marble floor. Every alien in the room turned to look at them. The council chamber was the largest room in the known galaxy. It sat at the heart of Station Prime, where representatives from 1,000 species came to discuss the future of civilization. Golden pillars rose toward a ceiling painted with stars. Floating platforms held delegates from every corner of Union space. Today, all of them were watching the humans. High Speaker Morath sat at the center of the highest platform. He was ancient, even by the standards of his long-lived species. His gray skin hung loose on his frame, and his 4 eyes blinked slowly as he studied the human delegation. Beside him sat Councillor Veth of the Rilari, whose blue scales caught the light as he leaned forward with interest. "Admiral Park," Morath said, his voice echoing through the chamber, "we are pleased you accepted our invitation. Please take your seats. We have much to discuss about the upcoming trade agreements." Admiral Park did not move toward the seats prepared for her delegation. Instead, she remained standing in the center of the floor, where everyone could see her clearly. "High Speaker," she said, "I did not come here to discuss trade agreements." A murmur ran through the chamber. Delegates whispered to each other in a dozen different languages. Councillor Veth's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of confusion among his people. "Then why have you come?" Morath asked. His tone was patient, like a teacher speaking to a child who did not understand the lesson. "Admiral." Park reached into her uniform jacket and pulled out a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. She held it up so that everyone could see it. "I have come to deliver this," she said. "The formal declaration of humanity's withdrawal from the Galactic Union, effective immediately." For a moment there was complete silence. Then Councillor Veth began to laugh. The sound was harsh and sharp, like metal scraping against metal. "A joke?" he said. "The humans are making a joke." "Very amusing, Admiral. Now please let us move on to serious matters." "This is not a joke," Admiral Park replied. Her voice was calm and steady. "Humanity is leaving the Union. This decision is final." High Speaker Morath raised one of his 4 hands. The chamber fell silent again. "Admiral Park," he said slowly, "perhaps you do not understand the gravity of what you are saying. No species has ever left the Galactic Union. To do so would be to abandon all the benefits of membership, trade, protection, technology. Are you truly prepared to give up everything your people have gained in 200 years? Admiral Park smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Everything we have gained," she repeated. "High Speaker, that is exactly why we are leaving. Because in 200 years we have gained nothing but broken promises and empty words." She pressed a button on the crystal. Suddenly, the air above her filled with holographic images. Documents, videos, audio recordings. Thousands upon thousands of files, all floating in a great cloud of evidence. "This crystal contains every interaction between humanity and the Council for the past 200 years, Admiral Park said. "Every treaty we signed that you broke. Every request we made that you denied. Every time we helped you and received nothing in return. Every time you took from us and told us to be grateful." Captain Do-Yun Kong stepped forward from the line of officers. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. He carried a small device in his hands, which he activated with a touch. A new hologram appeared in the chamber. It showed a map of Union space with thousands of small lights moving across it. "These are human ships," Captain Kong said. "Colony vessels, transport ships, cargo haulers. There are 847 of them, and they are all currently in transit out of Union space." The murmur in the chamber grew louder. Delegates were standing up now, pointing at the map, talking urgently to their assistants. "This is impossible," Councillor Veth said. His scales had turned dark, a sign of anger. "You cannot simply leave. There are procedures, applications, reviews. You cannot just decide to go." "We can," Admiral Park said. "And we have." "We are not asking for permission, Counselor. We are informing you of our decision. High Speaker Morath leaned forward on his platform. For the first time, there was something other than patience in his ancient eyes. There was concern. Admiral Park, he said carefully, let us not be hasty. If humanity has grievances, we can discuss them. We can form a committee. We can review the issues and find solutions. There is no need for such extreme action. Admiral Park looked up at him for a long moment. Then she shook her head slowly. High Speaker, humanity has been asking for discussions for 200 years. We have filed complaints. We have requested meetings. We have begged for fair treatment. And every single time we were told to wait, to be patient, to trust that things would get better. She paused. Things never got better, and we are done waiting. She turned to address the entire chamber, raising her voice so that every delegate could hear her clearly. For 2 centuries, humans have served this union faithfully. We have shared our knowledge. We have defended your borders. We have fed your hungry and healed your sick. We have given and given and given, and what have we received? We have been denied seats on your councils. We have been restricted from expanding to new worlds. We have been called aggressive when we defended ourselves and weak when we asked for peace. We have been used and we have been dismissed, and we have had enough. Captain Tang stepped closer to her, his hand resting on the device that controlled the holographic display. He was watching the council members carefully, looking for any sign of threat. You had 200 years to treat us as equals, Admiral Park said. You chose not to. And now you will see what the Union looks like without us. She turned and began walking toward the doors. Her officers fell into formation behind her, their footsteps echoing in the stunned silence of the chamber. Wait, High Speaker Morath called out. Admiral Park, please. We can negotiate. Whatever humanity wants, we can discuss it. Admiral Park stopped at the doors. She looked back over her shoulder at the ancient alien leader. You are 200 years too late for that conversation, she said. Then she walked through the doors and did not look back. The great doors closed behind her with a sound like thunder, and the council was left staring at the space where the humans had been standing on the holographic map. The lights of the human fleet continued to move steadily outward, away from Union space, away from Station Prime, away from everything they had known for 2 centuries. Councillor Veth turned to High Speaker Morath with panic in his eyes. They cannot be serious, he said. This must be a negotiating tactic. They will come back. They always come back. Morath did not answer. He was watching the map, watching the lights disappear one by one into the darkness beyond Union borders. And for the first time in his very long life, he was not certain what would happen next. The flagship New Dawn was the largest ship humanity had ever built. It stretched for nearly 3 kilometers, and inside its metal walls lived 50,000 people. They were doctors and farmers, engineers and teachers, soldiers and children. They were the future of the human race, sailing away from everything they had known. In a small room near the center of the ship, Dr. Minji Han sat before a recording drone. She was a woman of middle age, with kind eyes and gray streaks in her black hair. She had spent her entire life studying history, and now she was about to tell the most important story she had ever told. My name is Dr. Minji Han, she said to the drone. I am the chief historian of the Human Exodus Fleet. I have been asked to create a record of why we are leaving the Galactic Union. This is that record. She took a deep breath and began. Humanity joined the Galactic Union 200 years ago. We were young and eager and full of hope. The galaxy seemed so big and we were so excited to be part of it. We thought we had found a family among the stars. Her voice became heavier as she continued. In the 12th year of our membership, a famine struck the Keth worlds. Millions were dying. The council debated what to do, but they moved slowly, as they always do. Humanity did not wait. We opened our agricultural databases. We shared every technique we had for growing food in difficult conditions. We sent ships full of grain and seeds and farming equipment. We saved the Keth. She paused for a moment, her jaw tight. And how did the council thank us? They passed a resolution restricting human expansion into fertile systems. They said we were too aggressive in our growth. They said we needed to be contained for the good of the Union, the same Union we had just saved from watching an entire species starve. In another part of the ship, Elder Suhobei sat in a chair by a window that looked out at the stars. He was 180 years old, kept alive by human medical science, but still frail and tired. A young officer named Lieutenant Jiwoo Shin sat across from him with a recording device. "You were there," Jiwoo said. "You were part of the first human delegation to the council. What was it like?" Elder Bei smiled weakly. "We were so proud, so honored. We thought we had achieved something wonderful. We did not understand yet that to them, we were just another resource to be managed." He coughed and continued. "In my lifetime, I watched humanity give everything to the Union, and I watched the Union take everything and give nothing back. I kept hoping things would change. I kept telling the young people to be patient, to work within the system. I was a fool." Jiwoo leaned forward. "Do you regret leaving now?" Elder Bei shook his head slowly. "My only regret is that we did not leave sooner. My generation wasted our lives begging for respect we would never receive. Your generation will not make that mistake." Back in the recording room, Dr. Han continued her history. In the 78th year of our membership, a plague swept through Union space. The Vorn Plague, they called it. It killed quickly and spread faster. Entire planets were quarantined. The council was paralyzed with fear. She straightened in her chair. Human doctors went to the infected worlds. They worked day and night. Many of them died from the plague themselves. But they did not stop. They developed a cure. They saved billions of lives across 100 worlds. Her eyes grew cold. And the council's response? They declared that the cure was Union property. They took our research and sold it to the highest bidders. Human doctors had died to create that cure, and the council turned it into profit. They did not even thank us. On Station Prime, Counselor Veth sat alone in his quarters, staring at the data crystal Admiral Park had left behind. He had been reviewing its contents for hours, and what he found made him sick. He had not realized. He had truly not realized how badly his people, the Rilari, had treated the humans. Resolution after resolution, vote after vote, the Rilari had stood against humanity. They had blocked human expansion. They had voted to restrict human military development. They had supported every measure that kept humans in their place. Veth had voted for many of those measures himself. At the time, he had told himself it was for the good of the Union. Now he understood the truth. It was for the good of the Rilari. And the humans had paid the price. Dr. Han's voice filled her recording room as she spoke of the border wars. In the 156th year of our membership, the Harvesters came. They were a species from beyond Union space, and they wanted our worlds. They wanted our resources. They wanted us dead. She stood up from her chair, unable to sit still as she spoke of this. The Union was not ready. Their fleets were scattered. Their defenses were weak. But humanity was ready. We had been building our military for decades, despite the Council's restrictions. And when the Harvesters came, we met them. Her hands clenched at her sides. 2 million human soldiers died in the border wars. 2 million. We held the line while the Council reorganized. We bought them time with our blood. We saved the Union from destruction. She turned back to the recording drone. And what was our reward? We asked for seats on the military council. We had earned them. We had paid for them with 2 million lives. The council refused. They said humans were too aggressive, too dangerous. They did not want us having a voice in military decisions. She sat down heavily in her chair. That was when my generation began to understand. We were not partners in this union. We were tools. We were useful when there was work to be done and threats to be fought. But we would never be equals. We would never be respected. We would never be allowed to sit at the table with the others. On the new dawn, Lieutenant Jiwoo Shin walked through the ship's corridors after her interview with Elder Bei, everywhere she looked. She saw families, children running and laughing, parents talking about the future, old people looking out the windows with tears in their eyes. They were not angry, these people. They were not bitter. They were sad. They were mourning the loss of something that had never really existed. They had wanted so badly to belong to the Union. They had tried so hard to earn their place. And in the end, they had learned that no amount of trying would ever be enough. Jiwoo thought about her own life. She was 26 years old. She had been born on a human colony world that was always being told it could not expand, could not grow, could not reach for more. She had joined the military and served with distinction, only to be passed over for promotions because human officers were not trusted with command. She had grown up being told that she had to be patient. That change took time. That if she just worked hard enough, things would get better. She did not believe that anymore. Her generation had looked at the evidence and made a choice. They would not spend their lives begging for scraps from a table they were never allowed to sit at. They would build their own table. Dr. Han finished her recording with a final statement. This record will be preserved for future generations. Let it show that humanity did not leave the Union in anger or hatred. We left in sorrow. We left because we finally understood that we would never be treated fairly. We left because we were tired of hoping for something that would never come. She looked directly into the recording drone. We gave the Union 200 years of loyalty. They wasted every single day of it. And now we are going to find a place where our children will not have to beg for the respect they deserve. She reached forward and turned off the drone. The recording ended. The history was preserved, and the fleet continued on its journey into the unknown, carrying the last hope of the human race away from the civilization that had failed them. The first reports of trouble came within hours of the human announcement. Trade Minister Yoonji Cho stood on the bridge of her transport ship, reading message after message on her datapad. Each one was more desperate than the last. Minister Cho: the Relari Trade Federation is demanding to know why human cargo ships have stopped arriving at their stations. Minister Cho: the banking systems on 12 worlds have frozen. They say there is no one to process the transactions. Minister Cho: the council is calling an emergency session. They are demanding that you return to Station Prime immediately. Yoonji deleted that last message without responding. She had no intention of returning to Station Prime. Her job was to oversee the economic withdrawal, and that was exactly what she was going to do. She turned to her assistant, a young man named Byung-ho. What is our current status? Byung-ho checked his own datapad. All human-owned trading posts have been shut down. Human banks have stopped processing Union currency. Human shipping companies have recalled their vessels. He paused. Minister, the effect is already being felt across Union space. Prices for basic goods have increased by 30% in the last 6 hours. Yoonji nodded. She had known this would happen. For 200 years, humans had quietly become the backbone of Union commerce. They had built the trading networks. They had created the banking systems. They had run the shipping lanes. The Union had been happy to let them do all this work. They had never stopped to think about what would happen if the humans stopped. Now they were finding out, on Station Prime. Ambassador Taiwan Lim sat in his office with his communication console lighting up like a festival. Every species in the Union was trying to reach him. Every government was begging for answers. He answered the first call. It was from the Keth, the species humanity had saved from famine long ago. Ambassador Lim, the Keth representative said, her voice shaking. Please, you must reconsider. Our agricultural systems still depend on human technology. If your technical support leaves, we will not be able to maintain our food production. Millions will starve. Taiwan's face remained calm. Your people have had nearly 200 years to develop your own agricultural expertise. You chose to remain dependent on us instead. That was your decision. We will pay anything, the Keth representative said. Name your price. We will give you whatever you want. There is nothing you can give us, Taiwan said. This is not a negotiation. This is a departure. He ended the call. Another one immediately took its place. And another. And another. Each species had a different crisis. Each one was suddenly realizing how much they had relied on humans without ever appreciating them. In the medical districts of Station Prime, chaos was spreading. General Haniel Yu oversaw the evacuation of human medical personnel from Union hospitals. She stood in the lobby of the Central Medical Facility, watching as human doctors and nurses walked past her toward waiting transport ships. A Rilari administrator ran up to her, his scales dark with panic. "You cannot do this," he said. "You cannot take the doctors away. We have patients who need surgery. We have people who will die without treatment." General Yu looked at him without sympathy. "How many of those doctors were Rilari?" The administrator blinked. "What? Your species has been part of the Union for 3,000 years. How many Rilari doctors work in this facility?" The administrator did not answer. They both knew the truth. There were almost no Rilari doctors in the Central Medical Facility. There were almost no doctors from any council species. For generations, the important species had decided that medical work was beneath them. They had let humans do it instead. "You let us do the work you did not want to do," General Yu said. "You called us servants and you paid us poorly and you gave us no respect. And now you are surprised that we are leaving." She turned and walked away, following her people toward the transport ships. Behind her, the administrator stood frozen, not knowing what to do. On the edges of Union space, the military situation was becoming critical. Human fleets had protected key border regions for over a century. Now those fleets were withdrawing, and hostile species beyond the borders were taking notice. A Union patrol station detected movement from the Scrath, a violent species that had been held back by human forces for decades. The station commander, Aveth, sent an urgent message to Council military headquarters. "The Scrath are massing ships at the border. They are testing our defenses. They know the humans are gone." The response came back within minutes. "Hold your position. Reinforcements are being assembled." But there were no reinforcements. The Union military was scattered across 1,000 systems, and it had always relied on human quick-response fleets to handle emergencies. Without the humans, it would take weeks to assemble a proper defense force. The Scrath attacked the station that night. It fell within 3 hours. It was the first Union territory to be lost in over a century, back on Station Prime. The council was meeting in emergency session. High Speaker Morath looked out at the delegates and saw fear on every face. "Good. They should be afraid." "Counselor." Preth of the Morath's own species stood up and demanded attention. He was younger than Morath, ambitious and ruthless. He had been waiting for a chance to increase his power, and he saw this crisis as his opportunity. "High Speaker," Preth said loudly, "we must act with strength. The humans have taken Union property, Union technology, Union knowledge. We must send our fleets to stop them. We must seize their ships and force them to return what they have stolen." A murmur of agreement ran through some parts of the chamber. Morath raised his hand for silence. "Counselor Preth," he said slowly, "what you are suggesting is war." "It is not war," Preth said. "It is enforcement. The humans are breaking Union law by leaving without permission. We have the right to stop them." "And how do you propose we do that?" Morath asked. "With what ships?" "Our fleets are scattered. Our borders are under attack. And the humans have been building their military in secret for decades. They have 800 warships in that Exodus fleet alone. Are you prepared to fight them?" Preth opened his mouth to respond, but Morath continued. "And even if we could win such a war, what would it prove? That we are exactly what the humans said we were. That we only value them as property to be controlled. That we would rather destroy them than let them leave." Preth sat down, his face angry but silent. He knew that Morath was right, even if he would never admit it. Counselor Veth stood up. He had been quiet since the human announcement, reviewing the evidence they had left behind, thinking about what he had learned. "High Speaker," he said, "I have studied the data crystal Admiral Park provided. The humans were telling the truth. We have mistreated them for 200 years. We have taken their help and given nothing in return. We have blocked their growth and denied their requests. We did this because we were comfortable, because it benefited us, and now we are paying the price." The chamber erupted in angry shouts. Delegates accused Veth of being a traitor, of siding with the humans against his own people, but Veth stood firm. "I am not siding with anyone," he said. "I am stating facts. If we want to survive this crisis, we must first admit what we did wrong. We must understand why the humans left. Only then can we begin to fix what we have broken." But even as he spoke, Veth knew it was probably too late. The humans were gone. Their ships were already beyond Union borders, flying toward a new home in a distant part of the galaxy. And the Union they left behind was beginning to fall apart. That night, Trade Minister Yunji Cho received a final report. Markets across the Union had crashed. Food shortages were being reported on dozens of worlds. Medical facilities were closing. Border defenses were failing. She read the report and felt nothing. No satisfaction. No anger. Just a deep, tired sadness. For 200 years, humanity had held the Union together. They had done the work that no one else wanted to do. They had given everything they had, and they had asked only for respect in return. The Union had refused to give it to them. And now the Union was learning what life looked like without humans to carry the weight. Yunji turned off her datapad and looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Exodus fleet was flying toward freedom. She would join them soon, and she would never look back. The Exodus fleet moved through space like a river of light. 847 ships, carrying nearly 100 million people, all flying toward a future no one had ever seen. At the head of the fleet was the New Dawn, and on its bridge stood Admiral Yuna Park. Navigator Sujin Wang approached her with a datapad showing their course. She was young, barely 30, but she was one of the best navigators humanity had ever produced. "Admiral," Sujin said, "we are now beyond the furthest edge of Union space. No Union ship has ever traveled this far." Yuna looked at the star map on the main screen. Behind them was everything humanity had known for 2 centuries. Ahead of them was empty space, stretching out toward a distant galactic arm that the Union had never bothered to explore. "How long until we reach the target system?" Yuna asked. 8 months at current speed, Sujin replied. The scout ships confirmed the reports. "There are over 200 habitable worlds in that region. More than enough room for us to grow." Yuna nodded. This was not a sudden decision. Humanity had been planning this exodus for 50 years. They had sent secret scout missions to find a new home. They had built colony ships in hidden shipyards. They had prepared for the day when they would finally say enough. Chief Engineer Junho Kwan came onto the bridge with a status report. He was a large man with calloused hands, the kind of person who preferred working with machines to talking with people. "All ships report normal operations," Junho said. "Power systems are stable. Life support is functioning properly. We have enough supplies for the full journey, plus a safety margin of 2 years. And the civilians?" Yuna asked Jun. Oh smiled slightly. "They are doing well. The children are excited. They think this is an adventure." Yuna wished she could share their excitement. For the children, this was the beginning of something new. For her generation, it was also the end of something old. They were leaving behind the world they had grown up in. They were leaving behind friends and memories and the hope that things could have been different, but they were also leaving behind the disappointment, the frustration, the endless cycle of giving and receiving nothing. And that, at least, was worth celebrating. Far behind the fleet, on Station Prime, High Speaker Morath was making a decision that would have been unthinkable just days ago. He was going to the humans. He was going to beg. His personal ship was fast, the fastest in the Union fleet. It caught up to the Exodus fleet in 3 days. When it arrived at the edge of the human formation, it was immediately surrounded by a dozen warships with weapons powered and ready. Communication came through from the New Dawn. It was Captain Do-Yun Kong. "High Speaker," Kong said, his face hard. "You are not welcome here." Turn your ship around and return to Union space. Captain Kang, Morath said, I request an audience with Admiral Park. I have come to make an offer on behalf of the Galactic Council. There was a long pause. Then Kang's face disappeared from the screen, replaced by Admiral Park. Hi, Speaker, she said. Her voice was polite but cold. You have come a long way. What do you want? I want to offer humanity everything it ever asked for, Morath said. Full seats on the Council. Full seats on the Military Council. Reparations for past mistreatment. Formal apologies from every species that wronged you. Complete freedom to expand into any system you choose. He leaned forward in his chair. Admiral Park, I am offering you everything. All you have to do is come back. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, permission to come aboard. We should discuss this in person. An hour later, Morath stood in the conference room of the New Dawn. It was a simple room, nothing like the grand chambers of Station Prime, but it felt more honest somehow. More real. Admiral Park sat across from them. Captain Kang stood by the door, watching Morath with suspicious eyes. Hi, Speaker, Yuna said. I want to make sure I understand your offer. You are saying that the Council will give humanity everything we have been requesting for 200 years. Everything we have been told was impossible. Everything we were denied over and over again. Yes, Morath said. We were wrong to deny you. We see that now. We want to make things right. Yuna nodded slowly. And why now? Why today? Why not 10 years ago? Why not 50 years ago? Why not when we first asked? Morath hesitated. He knew the answer, but he did not want to say it. Yuna said it for him. Because now you need us, she said. Your economy is collapsing. Your medical systems are failing. Your borders are being attacked. You did not value us when things were good. You only value us now because things are bad. That is not fair, Morath said. No, Yuna agreed. It is not fair. None of this is fair. It was not fair when we saved your people from famine and you restricted our growth. It was not fair when we cured your plagues and you stole our research. It was not fair when we died defending your borders and you denied us a voice in your military. None of it was fair, High Speaker. And now you want us to forget all of that because you suddenly need us again. She stood up from her chair and walked to the window. Outside, the stars stretched endlessly into the darkness. I am not angry at you, she said quietly. I am not even angry at the Council. I am tired. My people are tired. We spent 200 years trying to earn your respect, and we never got it. We spent 200 years hoping things would change, and they never did. She turned back to face him. This is not about what you are offering now. This is about what you proved over 200 years. You proved that we will never be your equals. You proved that you will only value us when you need us. You proved that the moment things get better, you will go back to treating us the way you always have. I give you my word, Morath said. Things will be different. Your word, Yuna repeated. High Speaker, the Council has given us its word many times. It has never meant anything. Why should we believe it now? Morath did not have an answer for that. He sat in silence, realizing that there was nothing he could say to change her mind. The damage was too deep. The trust was too broken. Admiral Park, he said finally, what will it take? What can we do to bring you back? Yuna looked at him with something like pity. Nothing, she said. There is nothing you can do? If you had asked me that question 10 years ago, I would have given you a list of demands. 20 years ago, I would have been grateful just to be asked. But now it is too late. We have made our decision. We are building something new, somewhere far away from you. And we are not coming back. Morath lowered his head. He was old. He had seen many things in his long life. But he had never felt defeat like this. I understand, he said quietly. I will return to the Council and tell them your answer. He stood up and walked toward the door. But before he left, he turned back one more time. For what it is worth, he said, I am sorry. I am sorry for what we did to your people. I'm sorry that we were too blind to see it. And I'm sorry that it took losing you to make us understand. Yuna nodded. I believe you are sorry, High Speaker. I believe that you truly regret what happened. But regret is not enough. It was never enough. Morath left the New Dawn and returned to his ship. As he flew back toward Union space, he watched the Exodus fleet grow smaller and smaller on his screens, until it finally disappeared into the darkness, on the bridge of the New Dawn. Captain Kang turned to Admiral Park. Do you think he understood? He asked. Yuna sat back down in her chair and looked out at the stars ahead of them. He understood that we are not coming back, she said. But I do not think he understood why. I do not think any of them will ever truly understand why. She turned to Navigator Wang. Continue on course. Take us home. The fleet moved forward, leaving the Galactic Union behind forever. And in the empty space where they had been, there was only silence. 1 year had passed since the Exodus. The galaxy had changed in ways that no one could have predicted on a planet called Haven. In a star system far from Union space, President Yuna Park stood on a balcony and looked out at the city her people had built. Towers of glass and steel rose toward the sky. Gardens bloomed in every open space. Children played in parks while their parents walked to work through clean, bright streets. They had named their new nation the Human Stellar Republic. It was only 1 year old, but already it was thriving. Free from the restrictions of the Union, human scientists were making breakthroughs every month. Human farmers were turning barren worlds into gardens. Human builders were constructing cities that were safer and more beautiful than anything they had built before. Director Do-Yun Kang entered her office with his morning report. He was now the head of the Republic's intelligence service, responsible for keeping track of what was happening in the galaxy beyond their borders. Good morning, Madam President, he said. I have news from Union space. Yuna turned from the window. Tell me. Kang sat down across from her desk. The Union has fractured. The Relari and the Morath are fighting over trade routes. The Keth have withdrawn from the Council entirely. 3 species have declared war on each other over the border systems that we used to protect. He paused. There have been famines on 6 worlds. Medical crises on a dozen more. The economy has still not recovered. They are saying it is the worst time in Union history. Yuna listened to all of this without expression. She had known this would happen. She had tried to warn them for years that they were too dependent on humans. They had not listened. What about the military situation? She asked. The Scrath have taken 4 more systems. The Union is trying to build a defense force, but they cannot coordinate. Every species wants someone else to do the fighting. Kang shook his head. They still have not learned that some things require sacrifice. Yuna walked back to her desk and sat down. She thought about all the human soldiers who had died defending those same borders. All the sacrifice that had been given and forgotten. It was strange to think about it now, from so far away. In what remained of the Union, the situation was even worse than Kang had described. Councillor Veth had been removed from his position for suggesting that the Council should apologize to humanity. His own people had called him a traitor and stripped him of his rank. Now he lived quietly in a small apartment on Station Prime, watching the news and thinking about the mistakes he had made. A young Relari historian had come to interview him, wanting to understand what had happened and why. Councillor Veth, the historian said, many people say that the humans betrayed the Union. They say that we welcomed them and gave them opportunities and they repaid us with abandonment. What do you say to that? Veth laughed, but it was a sad sound. We did not lose humanity because they betrayed us, he said. We lost them because we were indifferent to them. We took their help and their sacrifice and their hard work, and we never once stopped to ask what they needed in return. We assumed they would always be there. We assumed they would always forgive us. We assumed they would always help us without expecting anything back. He looked at the young historian with tired eyes. We were wrong. And by the time we realized we were wrong, it was too late to fix it. The historian wrote down his words and left. Veth sat alone in his apartment, looking out at the stars, Wondering if the humans were looking back, on Haven, President Park received a report that made her pause. Union species were leaving the Union. They were flying across the galaxy in small ships, alone or in groups, coming to the human stellar republic and asking to be let in. They were refugees now. They had seen their governments fail. They had seen their economies collapse. They had seen the wars and the famines and the chaos. And they had decided that they wanted something better. Una called a meeting of her cabinet to discuss what to do. "We should refuse them," said one minister. "After everything their species did to us, why should we help them now?" "We should be careful," said another. "If we let too many in, they might try to take over. They might bring their old ways with them." Una listened to all of the arguments. Then she made her decision. "We will accept refugees," she said. "Anyone who wants to come here may come. But they come as individuals, not as governments. They come as equals, not as rulers. They must follow our laws and respect our values. They must earn their place here, just as we were never allowed to earn our place in the Union." She looked around the table at her ministers. "We will not become what they were. We will not treat others the way they treated us. We will build something better. And if they want to be part of it, they are welcome." The first refugees arrived within weeks. They were Rilari and Keth and even a few Morith. They came with nothing but the clothes on their backs and the hope of a new life. And the humans welcomed them. It was not easy at first. There was distrust on both sides. There were old wounds that took time to heal. But slowly, carefully, they began to build something together. The refugees worked hard and followed the rules and showed that they were willing to be part of the community. And the humans, remembering what it felt like to be treated as lesser, made sure to treat the newcomers with respect. 6 months later, a Union diplomatic vessel arrived at the border of Republic space. It carried a message from the new High Speaker of the Galactic Council, requesting a formal meeting with President Park. Yuna allowed the ship to approach Haven. She met the diplomats in her office, with Director Kong standing guard behind her. The lead diplomat was a Morath named Counselor Thren. He was younger than Morith had been, but he had the same careful way of speaking. "President Park," he said, "the Council wishes to establish formal relations with the Human Stellar Republic. We wish to apologize for past mistakes and build a new partnership based on mutual respect." Una looked at him for a long moment. "Counselor Thren," she said, "the Council had our loyalty for 200 years. They had our trust. They had our help. They wasted all of it. Why should we believe that things will be different now?" Thren hesitated. "Because we have learned from our mistakes. Because we have seen what happens when we take others for granted. Because we need your help." Una nodded slowly. "You need our help, yes, that is why you are here. Not because you respect us. Not because you value us. Because you need us." She stood up from her desk. "Counselor Thren, I will not reject your offer. The Republic is willing to talk. We are willing to build something new with the Union, but this time it will be on our terms. This time you will have to earn our trust. And I promise you, we will not make it easy." Thren bowed his head. "We understand, President Park. We will do whatever is necessary." He and his delegation left Haven and returned to Union space. Una stood at her window and watched their ship disappear into the stars. Director Kong came to stand beside her. "Do you think they will change?" he asked. Yuna thought about it for a long time before she answered. "Maybe," she said. "Maybe not. But that is not our problem anymore. Our problem is building this republic. Our problem is making sure our children never have to go through what we went through. Our problem is creating a future where humans are respected not because we are useful but because we deserve to be." She turned away from the window and looked at the city spread out below her. Her city, her people's city. "They had their chance with us," she said. "They wasted it. If they want another chance, they will have to earn it. And this time, we will not make it easy for them to forget our worth." She sat back down at her desk and returned to work. Outside her window, the sun was setting over Haven, painting the sky in colors of gold and red. In the streets below, humans and refugees walked together. building a new world side by side. The Union had learned its lesson. Whether they would remember it was yet to be seen, but humanity would never forget. And they would never again let anyone take them for granted.